Think about the way you actually drink your coffee each morning. Not the brand, not the roast, but the timing and the manner of it. Whether it's the first thing to enter your body before food, before water, before your feet have even fully adjusted to being upright, before you've even opened the blinds. Most people never think twice about this sequence. It feels too small and too automatic to matter. Yet a growing body of cardiovascular research has identified that the way coffee is consumed, more than the coffee itself, is quietly contributing to blood pressure patterns that standard checkups routinely miss entirely, because the effect shows up in a narrow morning window. No office visit is ever scheduled to catch and disappears again long before any nurse wraps a cuff around your arm. Here is why timing matters so much more than most people assume, and the physiology behind it is more specific than a simple caffeine reaction. Caffeine works primarily by blocking adenosine, a compound in your body that normally accumulates through the day and signals blood vessels to relax and stay widened, part of the natural system that keeps your circulation calm during rest. When adenosine is blocked, vessels constrict, and your heart, adrenal glands, and central nervous system respond with a short, sharp burst of heightened activity, all of which raises blood pressure temporarily, sometimes by a meaningful margin depending on the moment it happens. Dr. Jordana Cohen, a hypertension specialist and associate professor at the University of Pennsylvania's Perelman School of Medicine, has published research showing that this spike is not uniform throughout the day at all, and that specific patterns of consumption, especially drinking coffee on a completely empty stomach immediately after waking, produce a noticeably sharper and longer-lasting rise in blood pressure than the exact same coffee consumed later in the morning or alongside food. The reason this particular window matters comes down to what else is already happening inside your body at that exact moment, largely without your awareness. In the hour or two after waking, your body is naturally releasing cortisol as part of what researchers call the cortisol awakening response, a normal, healthy surge that itself raises blood pressure and heart rate slightly, functioning as your body's own built-in alarm clock to help you become alert and mobile. Dr. Cohen's research has noted that introducing caffeine directly into this already elevated window compounds the effect rather than simply adding to it in a straightforward way, since both the cortisol surge and the caffeine are acting on overlapping pathways in the sympathetic nervous system at the same time, producing a combined spike measurably higher than either factor would cause on its own, layered on top of a body that has not yet had the chance to settle into its normal daytime baseline. Dr. Ahmad Al-Khatib, a physiologist at Nottingham Trent University who has studied caffeine's cardiovascular effects extensively over the course of his career, has found something equally important in his published work, that people who consistently drink coffee on an empty stomach show blood pressure elevations that persist longer into the day compared with those who eat something first, since food slows the rate at which caffeine is absorbed into the bloodstream, blunting what would otherwise be a rapid, concentrated spike hitting blood vessels all at once, the way an unfiltered signal hits a system with no buffer in place to soften it. What makes this especially easy to overlook is that the sensation, if there is one at all, tends to be subtle enough to dismiss without a second thought. Perhaps a slight jitteriness, a faster heartbeat, a fleeting warmth, or nothing noticeable whatsoever, even while a blood pressure reading taken at that exact moment would show a measurable, real rise on the display. Dr. Cohen has specifically pointed out that repeated daily spikes of this kind, even when each individual spike resolves within an hour or two and leaves no lasting sensation behind, are associated over months and years with sustained increases in average blood pressure and greater cumulative strain on arterial walls, since the cardiovascular system is responding to a repeated daily stressor that never once shows up on a single reading taken weeks or months apart during a routine appointment, which is precisely the blind spot that allows this pattern to continue unnoticed for years. There is a second pattern worth checking alongside the first because it compounds the same underlying effect without most people ever realizing the two are connected to one another. Drinking coffee quickly, in large volumes over the course of just a few minutes rather than slowly over 20 or 30, delivers caffeine to the bloodstream in a concentrated surge rather than a gradual, manageable rise, and Dr. Al-Khatib's research group has noted that this rapid delivery pattern produces a measurably sharper peak in blood pressure than the exact same total amount of caffeine consumed slowly and steadily, meaning two people drinking an identical cup of coffee, same size, same strength, same brand, can experience meaningfully different cardiovascular responses based purely on the pace at which they drink it. There is a third factor that most people have never even considered, and it involves what temperature and volume are doing simultaneously. Dr. Al-Khatib's work has also touched on the compounding role of drinking a large volume quickly on a stomach that is not only empty of food, but also somewhat dehydrated after a full night's sleep, since blood volume itself is slightly lower first thing in the morning, and introducing a vasoconstricting substance into a circulatory system that is already running with reduced fluid volume can amplify the blood pressure response further still, creating a small but real cumulative effect that most people would never think to trace back to their coffee habit specifically. It is worth being clear about what this is not saying, because the goal here is precision, not alarm for its own sake. This is not a claim that coffee itself is dangerous, nor that people need to eliminate it from their lives, and Dr. Cohen's own published guidance has been explicit that moderate coffee consumption carries documented cardiovascular benefits for most adults when the full picture is considered. The concern here is narrower and far more specific than that. It is about the manner and timing of consumption, a variable almost entirely within a person's control, and one that most people have simply never been given a reason to think about before now. Before I continue, let me ask you something important. Have you ever made a major decision while feeling worried, rushed, or unsure which information you could trust? That is how costly mistakes often begin. A frightening headline can influence your investments. Conflicting health advice can leave you confused. A convincing salesperson, online scam, or emotional family situation can pressure you into acting before you have checked the facts. And after 50, the consequences can be much greater. One poor decision may affect your retirement savings, your health, your independence, or your peace of mind for years. That is why I want you to take a look at the decision trap. It is a practical guide designed to help adults over 50 recognize fear, manipulation, hidden bias, misleading information, and high-pressure tactics before making an important decision. Inside, you will find a simple step-by-step system for slowing the situation down, checking the evidence, asking the right questions, comparing your options, and protecting yourself from mistakes that could become expensive. Do not wait until a bad decision teaches you the lesson the hard way. Click the link in the description and get your copy of the Decision Trap now. Then come straight back, because the next part gives you a simple way to test and change this morning coffee pattern without giving up coffee entirely. Here is what to actually do with this information starting tomorrow morning, at no cost and requiring no equipment beyond what you likely already own. Eat something, even something small, a piece of fruit, a slice of toast, a handful of nuts before your first cup of coffee, allowing at least a short window after waking before introducing caffeine rather than reaching for it the instant you are upright and the kettle is already in your hand out of habit. Drink it slowly, over 15 to 20 minutes rather than in a few large swallows while standing at the counter. And if you own a home blood pressure monitor, take a reading before your coffee and again 30 minutes after, noting the difference over the course of a week to see your own personal pattern emerge, rather than relying on general population research alone, since your own numbers will tell you more about your own body than any study ever could. If you notice a consistently sharp rise on your own readings, mention this specifically to your physician using the phrase postprandial versus fasting caffeine response, and ask whether adjusting the timing and pace of your morning routine rather than eliminating coffee altogether might be the more sustainable and realistic first step for you specifically. None of this replaces a full medical evaluation, but it gives you a way to see a pattern your body has likely been repeating every single morning, quietly, for years, long before it became something loud enough to show up on a chart in a doctor's office weeks or months from now. Before you leave, understand what is really at risk. The cost of this guide is small, but the cost of one rushed financial decision, one misleading health claim, one convincing scam, or one panic-driven reaction can be far greater. It can cost you money you spent years saving. It can cost you confidence in your own judgment. and in some cases it can cost you your independence and peace of mind. The decision trap was created to help you recognize pressure, fear, hidden bias, and misleading information before they influence an important decision. You may not need this guide every day, but on the day you face a decision that could affect your savings, health, or future, not having a clear system may become far more expensive than getting one today. Click the link in the description and get your copy of The Decision Trap now, because the best time to protect yourself from a costly mistake is before you make it.